Welcome to Your Yes Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, energetic leadership guide, psychic medium, and somatic coach for ambitious leaders who know their gifts are real and who want to stand fully in them. Here, you'll learn how to trust your intuition, embody your vision, and step into the freedom you've been craving, all without chasing more certifications or carrying stuff that does not belong to you. Every week, I'll share powerful practices and conversations with thought leaders and changemakers that help you transform your vision into embodied confidence, claim your gifts without apology, and lead with both clarity and freedom. Because your gifts aren't cute, they're powerful, they're real, and they're needed. Start today by downloading my free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. It's the exact tool I use to track what's fueling me and what's draining me. It will help you discern between that hit of achievement and true joy so that you can lead with more clarity and impact. This is your space to stop proving, start embodying, and live fully in your gifts. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. Hello and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, psychic medium, trauma-informed somatic coach and breathwork facilitator, Reiki master teacher, and expert energy healer in multiple modalities. And I'm so excited to be joining you for one of the very last episodes of 2025. We have been through it this year. I think 2025 for me, I knew I was going to be doing some shedding. After all, it is the year of the yin wood snake. I knew because it was a yin year that it would be a lot of internal shifting. It wouldn't be a lot of external action, but wow, did I underestimate that energy? So if you also feel like you have been through it in 2025, I just want to assure you that the energy is shifting for 2026, not necessarily on January 1, but when the Lunar New Year shifts into the year of the Yang fire horse in February. I think it's February 17th that the Lunar New Year happens. So as we close down the calendar year, we have just passed the darkest day of the year if you're listening to this in real time. And if you're listening to this later down the road, you can kind of get a sense of the energy that I'm recording this in. And so we're headed back for the light, both in terms of the Lunar New Year and in terms of how the energy is moving through us. And one of the big transitions that happened for me in 2025 is I realized how much mentoring other practitioners, healers, coaches, and guides lights me up. It fuels me. I absolutely adore it. I feel like I'm really good at it. My clients are getting incredible results. And it took an identity shift, if I'm really being honest with you, because I had to shift from being the person who was doing the coaching, healing, and holding to the person who's not only doing that and now also mentoring other coaches and healers. And there was a little bit of imposter syndrome that I needed to work through. I don't really have an explanation around what it was from, other than, I think this is still the identity shift that is moving through my system, moving from being a public school music educator into really embracing this role. And if you know my story, if you've been listening for a while, you know that this happened several years ago. This isn't like it just happened in 2025. I left full-time music education in 2022. And so this has been an incremental process of growth and development. And I feel like I'm really landing in the thing that I really want to pull into this next chapter for myself, both in terms of my identity, but also in terms of the business that I want to run and the impact that I want to make in the world. And that is very specifically, I am an empath. I am intuitive. I'm psychic. But being an empath is something that has colored every phase of my life, from infancy to toddlerhood to childhood, all the way up into current day, because not everybody is an empath. In fact, very few people are true empaths. However, I support and work with empaths. It's one of the things that I love to do. And so if you don't identify as an empath, you're absolutely still welcome here. I love to work with the intuitive, the intuitively curious, the psychics, the mediums, the attuned, you know what I mean? The people that can track energy. But the people I help the most, I think, are the empaths because I have a unique understanding around what it is to be an empath in this world and how, as such soft, gentle, loving beings, we can maintain that softness and maintain our empathy and compassion and be fierce when we need to. And my life mission, my goal is to create and lead and mentor and support an army of empaths. Because I know that with your deep empathy and compassion, you are making fundamental changes in the world. And so, as this time of year, I find myself very reflective. And I find myself particularly reflective in the period between the 21st of December, which is summer, or excuse me, winter solstice, and the new year. And I really am feeling it this year as I'm acknowledging the changes that have come, both in terms of the podcast, but in terms of the business and how I show up and the people that I support. And you've probably felt it too, my guess is. And one of the other things that one of my clients who I absolutely love said to me the other week when we were in a one-on-one is she said, you're really embodying your inner CEO now. And I loved that because that has been my goal. That's been what I focused on this entire year of 2025. How would I show up if I was the CEO of my life and business? And that has impacted the offers that I bring to you. It's impacted the way that I'm talking about the podcast. And it's probably going to impact even the title of the podcast. I'll give you a little teaser of something I'm thinking about as we move into 2022 and I completely step into this new identity as the mentor, the guide, the coach, and the healer. I think there's some changes in store for us. So this episode is really dedicated to the empaths who want to serve, whether you are an educator, a coach, a healer, a physician, a nurse, whether you are a teacher in classrooms or you're a teacher in other capacities, you're a leader and you have this deep empathy and compassion. This is really going to help you understand what you can do to supercharge your empathy, to use it as your greatest gift, instead of what so many of us at some point in our lives learned, which was it can be a liability if we don't have the energetic sovereignty or strengthening our energetic fields. So, this episode is for anyone curious about the process that I lead people through, but it's especially for the experienced intuitive practitioner, whether you're a coach, an educator, a healer, a physician, a guide, a sound healer, a spiritual director. This is for you. This is for you because you already know a lot. You're already educated. You're already highly trained. You're already committed to the thing that you do. And yet, you still feel like something isn't landing the way that it should, both in terms of how you're showing up in the business that you're running or the business that you're starting, and also in terms of the transformations and the results that your clients are getting, and in terms of how you're moving forward. So first of all, I want to be very clear that if you are a coach, healer, guide, in any capacity, and you're also working full time, that you're still taking this work with you into your full time role, whatever that is. And your full time role does not take anything away from what you're doing in your coaching, healing, spiritual direction, whatever it is kind of role. In fact, it adds to it because you're doing this work out in the wild, so to speak, with the public, and that makes it even more impactful. So one of the things I'd love to do right now is to dispel the myth that the only way you can be successful is if you're a full-time entrepreneur. That is not true. And for many, many people, that's not realistic. That's not actually going to be a thing for you at this phase. Now, for some of you, it is. For some of you, this is your full-time thing and it's going really, really well. And for others of you, it is your full-time thing and it's not going as well. So we're going to talk about all those things. So this is for you if you are seeing things really clearly, especially you're able to see things for your clients, you're able to see things for yourselves, you care deeply. Things really matter to you. And yet the results are not as consistent as you want them to be. The thing I want to tell you is this is not a motivation problem. This is not a gift problem. It's not a lack of gift in your abilities. That's not it at all. Here's what it is. It's a translation problem. So for me, when I traveled to Paris, I tried very hard to learn some conversational French. And I installed one of the language apps on my phone and I studied for months before we went to Paris because I really wanted to be able to speak conversational French. And I have, I think, what I would term restaurant French, meaning I can pretty successfully order food in French. I can order a carafe of water in French, although I don't know that it happens without the French speakers around me giggling, but I can do it. I don't know that I actually speak French. In fact, I do know I don't actually speak French. It's very conversational. It's very like if I was in an emergency in France, could I communicate what I needed? Maybe if it was really about like the bathrooms or the food. So in that case, I needed a translator. I needed Google Translate. I needed a French to English dictionary. I needed translation. And that's what you need too if you're in these type of healing arts and things aren't landing the way that you want them to. It's not a matter of ability, it's a matter of translation. How are you translating the information that's coming through? And so one of the things that we think sometimes is once we get these intuitive insights, that that's the final step. That's not the case. The insight is actually the beginning. The insight isn't the impact. So your intuition alone is not going to create the change in your life or your client's life. And the reason is the intuition is pointing to the next action, whether it's an action that you actually take in the physical, or it's an action that's required in changing an identity or a belief system that's no longer serving you. There's something connected to that intuitive knowing. And if we're not responding to that, we're kind of missing the boat. It's like the same thing for me. I know how to say, I want a carafe of water on the table, please. But for me to actually say it in an appropriate French accent where the people, the glamorous people, oh my gosh, I'm just going to tell you the story. So my daughter and I went in 2019. We went to Paris and I was trying to speak French every time that we were in a restaurant or every time we met people. And it was very, very mediocre slash poor at best. But I kept trying and people seemed to appreciate the effort. And one time we went to this incredible little French restaurant on a corner and we were sitting outside in a sidewalk cafe and all of the chairs are facing out on the sidewalks. And there was this very glamorous French woman sitting to our right. I mean, very glamorous. She was chicly dressed. She was beautiful. She had her glass of wine and her cigarette in an ashtray, and she was so glamorous. And I got ready to order the carafe of water, which you're gonna mock me, and that's fine. Um, I think it's un carafe d'eau, and I'm sure you'll correct me. I know I have at least one French speaker who listens to this podcast. You can help me. So I ordered it, but I said it like I just did, and the lady, so glamorous, snorted. She laughed. She snorted because I said it just the way I said it, and it's not in the correct French way. So in that sense, I needed a little bit of help. I needed some translation. And then if we go beyond the restaurant French, oh my gosh, I really need translation. And this is the same thing for you with your intuition. You need some translation because your intuition, a lot of times we talk about it coming in like the third eye. Well, it does come in through your third eye, but it also comes in everywhere else in your body. And if you're ignoring the whole body for your intuition, you're missing out on tons of information. You need a translator, right? So the sensations that you get, whether those are body-based sensations or third eye sensations or visualization or things that you're hearing, that's one part of it. That's the sense, right? Sensing does not equal skillful response. We want to learn to link the sensation with being able to respond. And here's what that means for you as a practitioner. It actually means you don't have to worry about saying the right thing. You don't have to worry about directing the client in the right direction. You don't have to have all the answers. What you need to do is listen, feel, sense, see what is coming to you intuitively, and then respond to what you sense that's coming already from within the client, then mirroring it to the client so that they can see it. Now, this comes with some discernment because not all information that comes to you is necessarily what the client is ready to hear. And I talk about that in the Intuitive Somatic Healing Certification so that you can actually read the body language of the clients that you're working with to see if it's safe for you to mention the full intuitive insight that you're getting, or if you need to seed it. In other words, you plant the seed of, here's kind of what I'm sensing. Does this track? Does this feel true for you? So that you can allow their emotions and their body and their nervous system to begin to wrap itself around the thing that you planted. Because if we go in too much, too fast, too much, it's like the difference between having an appropriate drink of water from a water fountain and being sprayed with a fire hose in the face. So the intuition gives you information. Your skill level determines what you do with it. So when I've been working with practitioners, and I've been working with practitioners for the entire year, all of 2025, and I really up-leveled that in September of 2025 when the whole focus of my group coaching program shifted into the last 12 weeks of the year, being laser focused on how to be an expert level practitioner in terms of understanding the difference between a child part and a protector part, and knowing how to work with those child parts and protector parts, knowing how the intuition comes in for you, and then knowing how that translates into being able to communicate about the work that you do, both in terms of speaking, but also in terms of how you present yourself in social media, on your website, on email marketing. And here's what I learned over the course of the last year. My students inside my program, my clients, they stopped over intervening. The difference between a highly skilled practitioner and someone who's just starting out, not really listening to the intuition, is a lot of times you can get stuck in a specific piece of something that a client says and not go underneath to what the client actually needs and wants to have shifted. And if you intervene too soon or too much, your client won't have the transformation that they want. And so what my clients learned is they learned how to stop over intervening. They also learned how to stop carrying responsibility for the outcomes. Because here's the thing, the truth is you're not responsible for the outcome of your client. You're responsible for delivering the very best course or session or meditation or whatever it is in that moment. You're responsible for the content that you deliver. You're responsible for holding space in the session. You are not responsible for what happens after that session. You are not actually supposed to carry their energy with you for the rest of the day. You're not actually supposed to be impacted and influenced by your client's energy for the rest of the day or the rest of the week, whether we're talking about a client or a student or a patient. That's not actually appropriate energetic hygiene. It is something that comes very naturally to you, especially if you're an empath, but it's not what's supposed to happen. And then here's the other thing. When you stop carrying responsibility, emotion, and energy for your clients, you'll notice you have more bandwidth to make aligned decisions, not only in terms of the sessions that you're holding or the courses that you're teaching or the sound healing group events or the meditations that you're holding, but you'll notice that your clients get better results. And you'll notice that your sessions end cleanly and you don't overthink your decisions because you have the bandwidth to actually make them, which means you become a more confident practitioner. That affects your ability to price things in a way that you can make a living. It affects your ability to create sales because you can talk about things because you feel so aligned and confident, and it just feels like there's a high level of integrity, and that also impacts your leadership. So you're more confident in your business, you're more articulate about it, you're showing up on social media, you're more willing to be visible, you can actually tolerate the visibility, whether we're talking about creating content for social media or something like Substack or YouTube or your website, all of this. And this also is essential when we think about the nervous system. So, in the last episode of the podcast, I was talking about the impact that your nervous system can have, not only on you, but on your clients. So, if the nervous system is in a stress response, it impacts your ability to think clearly and to create aligned offers, to create aligned sessions because you're holding too much. So, this also plays into what we call ethical restraint, meaning again, you're able to feel and sense how to, in a measured way, give clients your intuitive insights without spraying them in the face with the fire hose of your intuition too much, too fast, by tracking real time body based information called somatics. Now, when we think about somatics and we think about all of these things, we cannot separate this type of work from our social justice work. It cannot be separated. And anybody who tries to separate it, I would be highly suspect of. Because if we try to separate out social justice from this type of intuitive work, I guarantee you they are skewing toward white supremacy, capitalism, and misogyny. Because unless we are intentionally creating inclusive communities of belonging, and we are intentionally addressing our own internal implicit biases, which we all have because we all have our unique perspective. If we're not addressing those, we're going to miss information that's coming to us from our clients, and we're going to misinterpret that information. You cannot separate out social justice work from intuitive client work. And if you find someone who does, I would think long and hard about working with them. Because if we have ever been subject to any type of ism, sexism, racism, or any type of phobia, homophobia, transphobia, that's showing up in our bodies. And it's showing up in the bodies of your clients. And if you are ignorant to it, you stand to cause real harm. And I I think I've said what I need to say there. I think I think that I've made myself and my beliefs pretty clear. It's okay to not to know what to do. It's okay not to know how to talk about this stuff. I will actually help you in the Intuitive Somatic Healing Certification. This is part of the curriculum. We'll learn how to have these conversations because the truth is there is not a right answer. There is a right way to have a conversation. And when we stop trying to get it right and start trying to listen and have conversations correctly, the dynamic shifts. That's the winning combination, is being willing to have conversations. You don't have to have all this figured out. You don't have to get it right. You just need to be willing to have a conversation. And if you are hesitant to addressing these kind of conversations, understand that I get it. I get it. In this country, we have oftentimes made being called a racist worse than engaging in racist acts. We have made being called a sexist being worse than engaging in misogynistic acts. So, of course, there's a little bit of fear. Of course, there's a little bit of trepidation, but there doesn't have to be. There doesn't have to be. And when you can confidently have the conversation without feeling like you have to get it right or have all the answers, relationships begin to form and grow and build. And that's what comes with trust. That creates trust. The other thing is, if you're outsourcing your authority to somebody else by trying to avoid these kinds of conversations, or you're trying to outsource your authority to another coach who's not asking you to turn inward, when you start really claiming that for yourself and stepping into the embodiment of, I am the leader, I can do this, I can have the courage to track my client's somatic system, I can have the courage to share what's coming through intuitively, I can have the courage to make sure my own nervous system is regulated, and I can have the courage to say to a client, let's get you regulated because I can see you're really upset right now. When that happens, everything changes. Because I can tell you, I'm a nationally recognized speaker on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And I know that intuitive and somatic work without bias awareness causes harm. I've seen it in classrooms. I've seen it in higher education. I've seen it in coaching spaces. I've seen it in healing spaces. Silence on this is not neutral. There is no neutrality. And here's the thing I really want you to get. Your repair skills matter way more than your perfection. Because when we take the time to repair a way that maybe we said something we didn't realize was harmful, or we repair something we did that we didn't realize was harmful, or we look at our own policies and procedures to reduce the harm that they're causing, that creates trust. There's actually strength that comes from that repair process. There's benefit to the repair. In fact, if you ask any therapist about the rupture repair cycle, the real juice in a relationship comes from the repair. The repair is where we form trust inside the relationship because we have the courage to have a conversation. Ethical practitioners don't need to avoid impact. You just need capacity to respond to it. And this is what makes the Intuitive Somatic Healing Certification different from anything you will find on the market, because you're getting all of the nervous system education. I am a nationally recognized expert on nervous system. You're getting also this diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging expertise. And you'll have me to ask all the questions you might have. And then we also go into the somatics and all of the intuition. So this is just an invitation. There's no pressure here, but the Intuitive Somatic Healing Certification is enrolling now, and this is the only time that the program will be taught completely live. It will be available again, of course. I'm going to run it again, but this is the only time the entire program will be taught live, where you get a chance to ask your questions in real time. We are enrolling now through January 2nd. There are 20 spots total available. Several of those spots have been paid for, and so there's not 20 available. There's fewer than 20. Enrollment begins through January 2nd, or continues through January 2nd. We begin on January 5th. So if you're done circling, if you are ready to step into this next level identity as an intuitive healer, coach, guide, or educator, this is for you. because you don't need more insight. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need precision. Well, you do need precision, but you need regulation, nervous system regulation for yourself. You need an ethical structure, and you need to understand how to track someone's system. That's what this work trains. Now, as we come to a close and we come to a close on our 2025, there'll be one more episode in 2025. I would love to know from you, what would be the biggest support for you in 2026? What do you want to hear more about? What do you want to learn about? And if you're looking for ongoing support at a really affordable level, I'm so excited to tell you that the membership, formerly known as the Spiritual Entrepreneur Collective, has shifted over to School. That's SKOOL. And it's now named the Spiritual CEO. Now, the reason is the Spiritual Entrepreneur Collective had way too many letters for the School platform. So we had to shorten it. So now it's the Spiritual CEO. We're over on School. There's also a link on my website that you can get there. And this is a great way for you to get ongoing support as a spiritual entrepreneur or a conscious creator at the low price of $111 per month or $1,111 annually, saving you 17% over the course of a year. So if you want ongoing support, the membership is the way to go. We have live calls once a week on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. Thank you so much for listening to Your Yes Filled Life and making it what it is, making it a nationally recognized, or excuse me, globally recognized podcast in the top 5%. That's because of listeners like you. So thank you. Thank you for doing everything that you do. Thank you for showing up for you in the high integrity, high impact, very empathetic, conscientious way that you do. Bye for now. Until next time.